It is time for Tartarian Tales 13, and I'm going to take it from this book, The History of the Great and Renowned Monarchy of China. So it has a lot of information. Who knows if it's been rewritten? Who knows when this true story is from, or when any of this is from, when this war actually took place. But the chapter I'm going to read you is chapter 21, entitled Of the War Which the Tartars Made Upon China. So, depending on who won the war is probably who we will get the information from here, but it might have some clues, might have some gems. I thought you all would like it, since we are kind of at a similar war with a similar enemy. Might be a good time for it. So let's see what happened back then and see how it relates to now. Who knows? All right, here we go. Chapter 21. When Hugh Moon, the first founder of the royal family that governeth at present, drove the Tartar out of the kingdom, who had kept all China under his subjection 90 years, he not only regained his own kingdom, but entered likewise into those of the others, and conquered those kingdoms that lay nearest him towards the north, obliging them to pay him tribute. Neither did he let them remain in the manner of kingdoms, but the same Hugh Moon divided them into 160 families or states, giving them diverse dignities and offices. These states grew so great that they divided themselves into 3 great kingdoms, one towards the west, another towards the north, and the third towards the east. The 2 first presently withdrew themselves from their obedience to the Chinese, only he of the east remaining their friend, treating with them and performing his obligations. This continued for many years, till the Chinese, seeing that eastern kingdom to increase much, whether it were for reason of state or for some other particular respect, they resolved to fall upon it and to bring them under, so that the Tartars, forced by desperation, resolved at once to invade upon them. This is the usual effect of extortion and tyranny, and where the prince would have more from the people than they are able to give. Whence Theopompus, king of the Lacedaemonians, when his wife told him that because he had eased his people of many taxes, he would leave his son a poorer kingdom than he had received from his father, answered, Relinquo sed diaturnius, that is, I shall leave him a more lasting kingdom. The Tartars therefore secretly levied soldiers, and on a sudden fell upon a sort in the province of Leotomen, and took it, making afterwards many inroads to their profit and to the great damage of the Chinese. The Tartars of the west and of the north, whether it were out of love to their country or out of interest, which is more probable, raised also an army and came into the succor of their eastern countrymen, and by little and little grew so numerous that in the year 1618 or I-618, 2 very great armies, one Chinese and the other Tartar, came to a field battle, in which the Chinese were vanished and put to flight with a very great loss of men, and that it might the better be understood how the state of things were then, I will set down here a memorial or petition which the President of the Council of War gave the king concerning this business, which I translated at that time and sent it into Europe for news, and now I have found it here printed, and it saith thus: A memorial or petition presented by the President of the Council of War to the king. In this 6th and 40th year of your reign, in the 6th moon, which was the year 1618 in the month of August, or I-618, the President of the Council of War presenteth you with this memorial, as to our Lord and King, upon occasion that the Tartars are entered within the walls toward the north, in which he humbly petitioneth you, that you would attend this business and presently open your treasures, and assist this war with men and ammunition. For the truth is, that in this month I have received intelligence from the captains that reside in the province of the walls toward the north, wherein they give me notice that in all parts of that province there were proclamations published wherein they did declare that the Tartars were gathered together to conquer this world of China, and gave me intelligence of the day appointed for the battle, the which accordingly was fought at that time with a great strength and multitude of people, and entering within the walls they have taken some of our men to sacrifice them. And the day before the battle they did sacrifice them with great acclamations to their king, and have already proclaimed him king of Peking, or Peking maybe. They bring with them many 100,000s of soldiers, and each beareth about him several sorts of arms. Our men, who met to encounter and suppress them, were 2 captains general, 96 ordinary captains, and 300,000 men at arms. They joined battle, and in the first encounter they killed 38 of our captains, amongst whom was one of our generals. The others are slain without number. They took also some thousands of prisoners, and in the retreat, by reason of the confusion and disorder, there were killed by them above 1,000 of our men. The people of the cities are fled, as also those of the other towns, whereupon the same day they made themselves masters of 3 cities. Upon the receipt of this news, we assembled the council, the Koleo, and other mandarins of this court, that in so weighty a business we might find some good expedient. And in truth it seemeth to us that heaven doth favor the enemy, who otherwise could not have been able to have made such a slaughter of our people in one day, and to have taken 3 cities. And so it seemeth heaven is angry with us, as also the prodigies which we have lately all seen do demonstrate no less. In the province of Pekin, the last year it rained not at all, and the people went about like men half dead. And in the province of Zangkim there was so great a dearth and famine that the people did eat one another. And into Nankim came an infinite multitude of mice, neither was it discovered whence that plague came. In the royal palaces of 5 parts the fire burnt down 2, and the wind overthrew 5 towers of this city. We saw 2 suns together, and the one did eclipse the other. These are all things of evil prognostication, but above all we saw a man enter into the royal palaces with resolution to kill the prince, which he had done, had he not been hindered. This fell out when the king would have constituted his 2nd son heir of the kingdom, who was grown very powerful by the favor and art of the eunuchs, and at that time there came in a man to have killed the eldest son, but he was hindered by his fear in the woman who helped the prince. And the worst is, that a mandarin, having spoken something high, showing therein his fidelity to you, our Lord, but for his loyalty you made him a traitor, and commanded he should be put in prison, and although we made great means to free him, by declaring his innocency, yet you never gave air unto us. This imprisonment was when the king shewed his eldest son to the mandarins in the royal hall, whom they would have had declared heir of the kingdom, and the king would not. And one of them took the boldness to speak and to plead for the true prince, and was therefore committed prisoner by the king. Many times the mandarins presented memorials, wherein they did relate the miserable condition of the people, desiring that their taxes might be lessened, a thing worthy of much consideration, but neither did you make any account thereof. We, the mandarins of this court, have several times petitioned that you would come out and give audience in public, as your predecessors hitherto have done, that the government might be conformable to that of heaven, as it is most fitting. You answered sometimes that you were not well, other times that the weather was cold and rough, and that we should meet another day. We expected till springtime, then till the beginning of summer, that you would performing what you had promised. But you not only gave no answer to the 2nd memorial, but you commanded it to be burnt. And in this manner you live retired in the palace, without making any account of what importeth you most. For this reason are the calamities so great, and we persecuted with wars. Peace is wanting, and as it seemeth it will be wanting, for we are come to see rivers of blood running down, and above all, in the 3rd moon last past, there came some from the province of Zensi to tell us that there had appeared there a man clothed in yellow, with a green cap on his head, and in his hand a fan of feathers, who spake thus, Vanly, that is the name of the king, doth not govern, though he hath reigned long. He sleepeth always. The kingdom is ready to be lost. The people will die of hunger. The captains will be slain and pierced through with lances. And when he had said this, he vanished. The mandarins were amazed. The viceroy used great diligence to know who this man was, but could not possibly find him out. Seeing therefore the calamities, famine, war, and other evils which the kingdom now suffereth, we plainly perceive that it was a prognostication of these things. Wherefore we are again returned to require you speedily to open your treasures of money, that fresh levies of men may be made, and some remedy put to so great evils. This is the memorial which was presented in the year 1618, since when the Tartars have continued every summer, for in the winter by reason of the great cold nothing can be done, to make considerable inroads, wherein they are commonly gainers to the great loss of the Chinese, so that the year 1622 2 principal Mandarins of the fort of Quamsi, where, as being the chief fortress of that province, the viceroy maketh his residence, whether it were that they were discontented or had hopes to better their condition by it, made a secret agreement with the Tartars to deliver the fortress into their hands, which accordingly they did. For the Tartars falling on upon that side which was assigned them, as soon as ever they began the assault, they easily took it by the treason which the others had plotted, and put to flight all them, who knew nothing of the treacheries, who together with the viceroy escaped to Jambay, the last fortress, as it were, of that province, and the first of the province of Pekim, the key and strength of the whole kingdom. As soon as the newest of this last rout came to court, both the kings and his grandees were in great disorder, and deliberated to change his abode, and to remove to the court of Namkin, as farthest off from danger, and it had accordingly been put in execution if a principal Mandarin, for there is always found some one or other who taketh care of the public good, had not presented a memorial to the king, wherein he demonstrated to him that this alteration would be the best and readiest way to destroy the whole kingdom, or the greater part at least, by despoiling of all strength the court and province of Pekim, that was so near the other province, which was now ready to be lost. This memorial took effect, and by it the design of flying and seeking a new habitation was broken off, it being formally resolved that Nankin should be fortified. There was therefore a proclamation sent out, which under great penalties did prohibit any to go out of the court, not only Mandarins and people of quality, but even the common people also. Upon this the people began to be quieted, especially seeing that the city was strengthened with new garrisons, guards, watches, and a rigorous strictness at the gate. The chiefest care was to fortify the pass at Zam-Hay-Kwan, which, as I said above, is on the very frontier of the province of Liantum, which was already lost, and on the entrance of the province of Pekim, and by reason the place, straitened on both sides with very high mountains, is impregnable. They sent thither great store of ammunition and fresh soldiers, in so great a number that it was reported that at the post only had 800 or 80,000 men of war. The king also sent new captains with ample power, which would have been of greater effect if he could have given it to them over the Tartars to conduct them that way, who, seeing it was not possible to make their entrance at that place, both because it was so easy to defend, as also that it was well fortified with men, began to wheel off to the east side thereof through part of Korea, giving off their design of going toward Pekim, which if they had done with so powerful and victorious an army, they had put that court into a greater fear and danger than ever yet they had experience of. The Chinese met them not far from the court, where there began so furious a battle that many men lost their lives both of the one and the other side. Yet at the last the Chinese had the victory. So great endeavor will men use to defend their own home. A little while after this fight arrived at the court of Pekim a Portuguese named Gonçalvo Teixeira, who was sent thither with an embassy and a present from the city of Macau, who, seeing the indolency of the Tartars and the fear of the Chinese, and judging that by it they might service to the crown of Portugal, and a kindness to themselves in what the king of China might do for them, offered to the Mandarins in the name of the city of Macau some Portuguese to assist them against the Tartars. The proffer was kindly accepted of, and a memorial was presented to the king, who presently returned a favorable answer. The council of war dispatched a father of our company to Macau, who was already gone along with the ambassadors to negotiate this assistance, with several orders to the officers of Canton to expedite the business as much as they could, with all liberality and provision and convenience for the men that were desired of them. 400 men were put in order, that is 200 soldiers, of which many were Portuguese, some whereof were born in Portugal and some there, but the most of them were people of that country, who although they were Chinese born in Macau, yet were bred up among the Portuguese after their manner, and were good soldiers and shot well in guns. To each soldier was given a youth to serve him, who was bought with the king's money, and so large pay for themselves, that with it the soldiers clothed themselves richly, and provided themselves with arms, and were after all that left very rich too. These soldiers set out from Macau with 2 captains, one thereof was named Pietro Corderio, the other Antonio Rodriguez del Capo, with their algiers, and other officers. When they were come to Canton, they mustered themselves with so much gallantry and with such salutes of their musketry that the Chinese were astonished. There they were furnished with boats to pass up the river with all convenience through the whole province, being presented by the magistrates when they came to any of their cities and villages, sending refreshment for them all of hens, beef, fruit, wine, rice, etc. They passed over the mountains which divide the province of Canton from that of Kiam, and is less than a day's journey from the other river, all on horseback, even to the meanest of their servants. Presently, upon the other side of the mountain, they were embarked again, and going down the river, they crossed after the same manner almost all the province of Kiamsi, till they came to the metropolis thereof, where I lived at that time, and had under my direction a good number of Christians. There they stayed only to see the city, and to be well looked on by them. They were invited by many of the noblemen, that they might look upon the fashion of their habit, and other things which seemed strange to them. They treated them with all manner of courtesy, and commended and admired all, except the slashing and pinking of their clothes, not being able to conceive why, when a piece of stuff is whole and new, men should cut it in several places for ornament. But when they had seen this city, these men returned, without any other effect, but the expense and great loss of the Chinese, occasioned by the Tartars in several encounters, because they were deprived of this succor. The occasion of their return was that the Chinese, who traffic in Canton with the Portuguese, and are their correspondents for their businesses, from which they draw a vast profit, began to perceive that by this entrance and the good success thereof, of which they had made no doubt at all, it would be an easy thing for the Portuguese to obtain license to enter into the kingdom, and to do their business, and sell their merchandise themselves, and by this means they should come to lose their gains. Therefore, before the Portuguese set out, they used all their endeavor to hinder their going, presenting many papers against it, and at last the magistrate answering that he could do no less, having already parted with the money, and distributed among the soldiers not only ordinary but very high and advantageous pay, they offered at their own charges to reimburse the whole money to the king. But seeing that this way neither they could obtain their ends, it is reported that they sent to court that money which they would have given, and presenting it to the Mandarins, prevailed so that those very men who had proposed the Portuguese to the king as an important succor did again present a memorial, wherein they expressed that there was now no need of them. The king answered, and I self saw the royal answer, It is not long since that ye did propose to us that these men should enter into the kingdom, and assist us against the Tartars. Now ye say they are not necessary. When ye propose anything, it were good you considered of it better. Howbeit, if they are not necessary, let them return. In this manner did that expedition of the Portuguese come to an end, without any profit at all to the kingdom, but much to the soldiers, besides that they had an opportunity to see a good part of China. The Tartars have ever since continued the war after the same manner, and do continue it to this day, and have forced the kingdom of Korea to pay them tribute, as they paid to China, although they still pay to the Chinese as much as they did formerly. So, very interesting, and we'll definitely have to see where this plays out, and I'll have to probably check out a couple other chapters from this book and read into it and see what else I can find that's really good. But I thought this was pretty interesting. Gives some insight into the war, or one of the many wars and battles that were erased from history, and makes you wonder how many were repurposed, how many old stories were repurposed for our history, our countries. Who was the real? How many times did invasions occur, and how many times have history been rewritten for the victor or the invader or the infiltrator or whoever? You never really know. And what we're seeing now is, it's a slow invasion, and it's taking place. And how long did it take place? The Chinese art of war talks about basically winning battles and winning epic wars over time without firing a shot. And that's what we're seeing happen now. And how long has it been going? And what did the Tartarians maybe change their name as time went on? Or is this all bias? Is this all reversed? Who knows? I really don't, but it's some interesting ways and different things to think about, and some insight into the war and how it happened, how things played out back then, and this is probably just a very small piece of massive stories and epic battles, and who knows. We'll keep piecing it together and seeing what happens. Hope you all enjoy. Leave some cool stuff in the comments. And thank you all. Bless you all.